Who is the weakest player on Unstable SMP? If you ask most players, they'll immediately say eggchan. But what if I told you the real answer is actually wemmbu? And before you click off thinking this is bait, hear me out, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the strongest players on the server are secretly the weakest ones. But let's begin with the most obvious candidates. Spoke is weak and everyone knows it. Spoke has poor PvP skills. Almost every fight shows him running away or stalling. He waits for friends to help him in battles, and he heavily depends on others for combat support. If you put Spoke in a 1v1 against literally anyone with a sword, he loses. Not because he's stupid, he's brilliant at strategy and exploits. But the question isn't who's the smartest player, the question is who's the weakest in actual combat. And if your entire combat strategy is call for backup and run away, you're cooked to win. Spoke destroyed the invisible mafia by finding and destroying their stasis chambers, not by fighting anyone. He infiltrated organizations by being sneaky, not strong. He survived through exploits like invisibility while wearing armor and chunk bands and duplication glitches. Take away those exploits and what do you have? A guy who runs, that's it. That's the whole combat ability. He's a cockroach, very hard to kill but completely harmless. Keep this pattern of relying on external advantages in mind because it becomes important later. Now eggchan is the player everyone assumes is weakest, because he's depicted as the more unskilled and unserious player compared to his ally wemmbu. He started as a pacifist who hated violence. He gets captured constantly by pirates, by the mafia, thrown into solitary confinement in Proton. He has lower render distance than most players despite claiming his eye sees all, which is just a straight lie he tells to sound intimidating. He acts silly and goofy in every situation. So obviously he's the weakest player, right? Except here's where it gets interesting. There's evidence eggchan killed a diamond tier mafia player and took their armor, because he was seen wearing diamond trimmed armor, which is the signature of diamond tier members. Now we covered this theory in a previous video, but the point is eggchan might be running the greatest deception on the server, or he's actually just weak. But let's talk about a player nobody considers weak who absolutely should be on this list. Parrot is the king of unstable SMP. He won a legitimate election, he saved Spawn. He's one of the 4 main protagonists. But here's what people don't want to admit. Parrot is a solid fighter but not elite tier. He's better at PvP than Spoke, which is an incredibly low bar, and he relies entirely on strategy and planning rather than raw combat skill. Every major victory Parrot has comes from elaborate traps, massive coordination, or having Teal bail him out of situations. Remember when Parrot tried to 1v1 clownpierce? He built a trap with 30,000 TNT and still couldn't kill him. That's not strength. Parrot gets overconfident constantly and ends up in dangerous situations he can't fight his way out of. His communication issues leave him vulnerable, and most importantly, in pure 1v1 PvP combat against any player, Parrot loses. He's strategic genius level, but strategy isn't combat ability. The king of the server can't actually fight, he just plans really well. Keep that gap between reputation and reality in mind. Now we need to talk about the players who literally cannot fight at all, because there's an entire category of non-combatants on Unstable SMP. Horace Altman is a professional builder hired to construct empires and civilizations. He's never shown in combat, has 0 combat feats mentioned anywhere, and exists purely as support character. The real Squiddle is also a builder who was part of the Master Builders group. Her castle got destroyed and he couldn't defend it. She has knowledge and coordinates but no combat ability whatsoever. These aren't fighters, these are chunkies who are builders. Lomedy is flamefrags' friend but not a fighter. He had a mace stolen from him and couldn't keep it. And when Flame tried to break him out of prison, Lomedy refused because he wanted to be a good citizen. That's not weakness from lack of skill, that's weakness from lack of willingness to fight. Bacon Waffles ran away when the mafia attacked. His base got destroyed by Spoke's team. He was a traitor, not a warrior. Rochambeau Games had to hire wemmbu to blow things up because he couldn't do it himself. His empire was easily invaded and flamefrags almost killed him until wemmbu saved him. These players survived by paying stronger players for protection. They're NPCs with diamond blocks. Then you have the factions. Copper tier Mafia members are the second lowest rank. They don't have resources to help in battle, they just have full netherite with copper trim and that's it. You become copper rank by killing one single player. 1. That's the requirement. These are barely above spawn chunkies. Iron tier members are third lowest. They have rune charges and colored fireworks but still minimal resources. But the truly pathetic tier is trimless Mafia members. These are the lowest rank in the entire Mafia, below even copper. They had to choose between killing someone to rank up to copper or dying in the void, and many of them chose death. They chose to die rather than fight another player. That's not just weak, that's giving up before the fight even starts. Now let's talk about the players who get captured constantly. Sir Pig was the former mayor of Capital City but not a fighter. He got captured by Jumper's spies and held in an obsidian box. He allied with Null but only as an informant, and he could only escape using a fishing rod stasis, not through combat. Planet Lord got captured multiple times throughout the series. Almost died to flamefrags until wemmbu saved him. Eventually got forced through a nether portal by Null and led a fallen settlement he couldn't defend. Dizzy U led an entire mercenary assassin group, and wemmbu killed his entire team except for him. Then Dizzy U immediately surrendered when threatened and got crossbow minecart trapped by the invisible player right after. Here's where things get controversial, because we need to talk about situational weakness. These are players everyone considers strong who are actually weak under specific circumstances, and this is where the shock factor comes in, because I'm about to put some of the server's strongest players on the weakest list. Jaden Man is known for his Riptide Trident and Mace combo. He's deadly in rain, he built the Pirate Empire, he fought in massive wars. But here's the thing, without rain, his Riptide Trident becomes completely useless. He loses all mobility advantage. His Mace becomes useless most of the time because it relies on the Trident for aerial attacks, and he becomes much easier to kill in dry weather. Jaden is conditionally strong, which means under normal conditions he's actually weak. If it's not raining, Jaden is just a guy with a stick. That's not reliable strength, just like Teo. Teo is Parrot's bodyguard and royal guard. He uses TNT minecart combat to devastating effect. He killed hundreds of lore members using carts, but Teo struggles when TNT carts run out, has difficulty handling large enemy groups after losing his primary weapon, and his combat is resource heavy because each cart takes one inventory slot. Teo is strong until he runs out of cards. Then he's just standing there with a sword like everyone else, except he's not trained for sword combat. His entire fighting style depends on having cards available. Take that away and he's helpless, at least lore wise. Remember how I said to keep the pattern of relying on external advantages in mind? Teo is the perfect example. And now we get to the play that's gonna make people angry, Ramboo. Ramboo is one of the 4 main protagonists. He has 2 maces named Gambit and Crucible. He perfected the Elytra mace combo. He killed 1,000 law members in the 2v1000 fight alongside flamefrags. So how in the world is he weak? Because Ramboo has predictable combat patterns. He's easy to trick and falls for deceptions constantly. He struggles against elite opponents like flamefrags, and he often barely survives against the strongest players. Ramboo is a lawnmower. You send him against crowds of unskilled players and he'll farm them. But you put him against one player who actually knows what they're doing and suddenly Ramboo is getting outplayed, running away, barely surviving. Flamefrags beat him after they were both exhausted from the 2v1000 fight, and that wasn't luck, that was skill gap showing true exhaustion. Here's what people don't want to admit about Ramboo. If you've watched him fight even once, you know his entire strategy. Elytra up, mace down, up will strike if losing, stasis out if desperate. That's it, that's the whole playbook. And against players who can adapt and read patterns, that predictability is a death sentence. Ramboo is strong against players who don't know his patterns, but weak against anyone who studied him. He's a boss fight that's easy once you learn the mechanics. So let's rank the actual weakest players on Unstable SMP from bottom to top. At the absolute bottom, you have trimless Mafia members who chose death over fighting. They're not even players, they're just statistics. Then spawn Chungis who are literally new players with no experience. Then copper tier mafia members who barely qualified by killing one person. Then builders like Harris and Squiddo who can't fight at all. Then non-combatants like Lomedy and Bacon Waffles who survive by paying others. Then players like Serpic and Planet Lord who fall under pressure. Then eggchan who's either pretending to be weak or actually is weak. We genuinely don't know. Then Spoke who runs from every fight unless he has exploits. Then Parrot who's king who can't win a 1v1 without traps. And at the top of the weak list you have the players who everyone thinks are strong but are actually weak in certain situations. You have Jaden who loses his entire fighting style when it's not raining, and Ramboo who gets destroyed without a mace and when someone learns his fighting patterns. Here's the truth about weakness on unstable SMP that nobody wants to accept. The weakest players aren't the ones with bad gear or low skill. They're the ones who rely on specific conditions to win. Take away their advantage and they're just regular players who loses to elite fighters. The strongest players on unstable SMP are the ones with no conditions. Flamefrags fight with whatever he has. Marlow doesn't need special weather. Clownpierce doesn't need exploits. These players are strong in any situation against any opponent. That's real strength. So who is the actual weakest player on unstable SMP? The real answer is Horace Altman. He's weak when it comes to combat but insanely skilled at building. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments if you think wemmbu deserves to be called weak. And if you want to watch more unstable SMP analysis, check out the video on screen.